Hi everyone. Welcome to another installment of Terrifying Trios. This is the last episode I'll be recording until October, which is of course regarded by many as the season for horror, but obviously these things can be enjoyed anytime, as you can see from the success of our second film, Sinners, which just came out in April. In the interest of being concise, I'll be avoiding spoilers for a change, so these film and book synopses will be shorter than usual, but hopefully no less blood-curdling. Content warning. The following movies and book contain scenes of graphic violence, including people being killed in spectacularly bloody fashion, the dead returning to life as vampires, the consumption of blood, people being immolated, impaled, or killed by the rising sun. Viewer and reader discretion is advised. And you should know, our topic this time is vampires and the African Diaspora. Our first film this time is Blade. Having spent his life hunting vampires, Blade knows little about his own past, except for the fact that his mother was bitten just before he was born. This gave him the strength of a vampire, as well as their thirst, which he controls via injection of a special serum. But Blade has no weakness to sunlight. After attacking a club filled with vampires, run by the rebellious Deacon Frost, Blade saves the life of hematologist Karen Jensen. Having been bitten by a vampire herself, Karen has to work quickly to develop a cure for vampirism before she herself changes beyond the point of no return. In this world, most vampires have been turned via a bite, and Karen deduces that this form of vampirism is similar to other bloodborne diseases. But the ruling class of vampires weren't made. They were born as immortals. Vampires who were first human, then turned, are looked down on by these so-called purebloods, and Deacon Frost, determined to upset this status quo, uses a computer to translate an ancient prophecy. After killing the leader of the vampire cabal, Frost seeks to revive an ancient blood god, but he needs Blade's blood to do it. This movie does a lot of things. Yes, it's full of exciting fight scenes and satisfying kills. It has late 90s CGI, which manages to be both horrifying and comedic. It's also a movie in which black women face terrible violence and little support. Vampirism, as is often the case, can be seen here as a metaphor for white supremacy and capitalism, which devalue the lives of the vulnerable, women of color especially. The vampires in this world are mostly able to kill with impunity, thanks to their vast wealth. They own the police, and since humans are a food source, they're viewed by Frost and most of the rest of his kind as livestock. Blade tries to maintain an uncaring exterior, but in saving Karen's life, and later, a little girl threatened by Frost, he reveals that his strength isn't just literal power. It's based in his humanity, and with that comes a strong determination to rid the world of vampires and the suffering they cause. Blade was released in 1998, and the success of this movie trilogy helped pave the way for over 2 decades of beloved blockbusters set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Wesley Snipes' talent as a martial artist is used to great effect, and while some shots might look a little dated today, countless action and horror films in this century have been influenced by this cult classic. I give this film 4 silver stakes out of 5. Our second movie this month is Sinners, which, if you haven't seen it already, I urge you in the strongest possible terms to do so as soon as possible, and/or see it again and see what you missed the first time. I was transfixed by this film from start to finish, and there are plenty of reasons why. An excellent cast delivers powerful performances, and the music, which is as haunting as it is beautiful. Twin brothers, Smoke and Stack, Elijah and Elias, have returned home to Clarksdale, Mississippi. Both have a reputation as men not to be crossed, and they aim to use their connections to start their own juke joint. To do this, they enlist a couple from town who own a grocery store, Bo and Grace Chow, as well as Smoke's estranged wife, Annie, and their cousin Sammy, a talented young musician whose nickname is Preacher Boy, given his pastor father. Sammy's father, by the way, does not approve of his love for the blues. We follow the brothers and their cousin as they spend the day preparing for opening night. At the train station, Stack sees Mary, a woman he was once romantically involved with, who has also returned to their hometown due to her mother's death. Also at the train station, Sammy encounters a woman named Perline, a talented singer, but also a married woman, that he can't help but admire. Sinners is a heartfelt historical drama about family, the blues, and two black men trying to make their entrepreneurial dreams come true in the Jim Crow South. That's Act 1 of this film. But then we meet a group of Choctaw warriors who have pursued a man to a lonely farmhouse at sunset, and the movie changes once the sun goes down. Imagine hearing music so incredible, played by a musician of such skill, that the past, present, and future begin to bleed together. That's what happens at the sawmill turned juke joint, but it isn't just the crowd gathered there who hear the song that Sammy wrote for his father. Remick, a vampire, hears his voice too, and when he approaches the building, he isn't just hungry for blood. As he eventually tells Sammy, "I want your songs, and I want your stories." There is so much to love about this movie. First, people make smart choices. This is not a horror movie where people split up over and over again, only to die horribly. And if you look online, you'll see a lot of thoughtful commentary on the fact that even when people do make questionable decisions, you understand why. Sex doesn't necessarily equal death. Sometimes characters manage to find an intimate moment alone, and that isn't the reason they die. The vampires are. And as with Blade, crosses aren't effective against these bloodthirsty foes. Remick, as it turns out, is a vampire from pre-Christian Ireland. There are so many fascinating dynamics in play here. Remick's desire to consume typifies white supremacy as more than just racist hatred. It's also rooted in exploitation. To paraphrase Delta Slim, who notes, "White folks love the blues. They just don't much care for the people who make it." Remick talks about love and equality, but he's only paying lip service to these ideas. He wants to consume black art in the same way that the Jim Crow South consumed black labor, without respecting the people making the art or doing the labor themselves. The Smokestack Twins are better equipped than most to fight a horde of vampires, but I won't say who survives the night of bloodshed. You have to see this movie to find out. Is this already the best horror film of the year? I think it is. I give Sinners 5 songs out of 5. Our book this time is Fledgling, written by the late, great Octavia E. Butler. This vampire novel follows a girl named Shori who awakens to find herself badly hurt and with no memory of who she is. She doesn't even know her name until several chapters in. Then she kills a creature and drinks its blood, and her injuries, including head trauma and terrible scars, begin to heal. Though Shori looks young, she isn't really a child. She's actually one of the Ina, a kind of vampire that can create symbiotic relationships with humans. Normally, this kind of thing is one-sided, but the Ina possess a venom that can extend human lifespans dramatically. Shori's appearance complicates her first meeting with a human considerably. Since she looks so young, the man who finds her, his name is Wright, and he's in his early 20s, wants to take her to the hospital or the police, since she is alone by the side of the road at night. But then she bites him. Her hunger for meat, which she needed to heal from her injuries in the opening pages of the book, has been replaced by a thirst for blood. Plus, Wright's blood smells especially good to Shori. And after Shori has consumed some of his blood, suddenly Wright finds that he wants to keep her by his side. The pair soon become amorous. Shori makes it clear that she cares that Wright consents to her drinking his blood, and she explains that she isn't really a kid, she's much older than she looks, so sex isn't as taboo as it seems. In many ways, this is a novel that explores taboos. Shori, we eventually learn, was genetically modified, born to be able to stand sunlight, and she will need several humans to keep her fed, since only drinking from Wright would kill him. While Shori has supernatural abilities, and thus can navigate the world differently than a human would, she is not invincible. Her kind are at times hated and feared, as evidenced by the fact that the community where Shori lived with her mother and sisters was burned to the ground before the book begins. And as someone who appears to be a young black woman, in that sense, she is doubly marginalized. However, Shori is also able to build a support system. She finds others like her, and the humans she bonds with are determined to help her. Again, this is a symbiotic relationship, since Shori will extend their lifespans by feeding from them. In examining themes like race, age, polyamory, and consent, as well as the nature of giving and taking within relationships, Octavia E. Butler presented a fresh and fascinating take on vampirism in what was, sadly, her final novel. In all of these stories, the humanity of the protagonists is at best questioned, and at worst dismissed. And it isn't just because they're vampires or some variation of that immortal creature. All of the characters in these stories are part of the African diaspora, and because of that, they have to navigate challenges beyond those of many other horror movie protagonists. They continuously prove their intelligence and resourcefulness through the choices they make, whether that's saving a life, knowing when to question a familiar face, or using whatever tools they have at their disposal to survive. Survival is a recurring theme here, though it doesn't always mean a character lives on as a human. Sometimes it means dying as themselves, rather than changing into something else. Sometimes it means making peace with being something else. Both Blade and Shori find ways to use their superhuman abilities to build community and try to make the world a better, safer place. The Smokestack twins, in returning to their hometown to establish a juke joint, recognize that they will be at a disadvantage in the Jim Crow South. But just because the place they were born can be cruel, doesn't mean that they're willing to give up on it, or the people who live there. When vampires appear in these stories, they play a variety of roles. Most are parasites, taking blood and leaving pain and destruction in their wake. And that's when vampirism represents racism, an exploitation of the African diaspora that gives nothing in return. The genius of an author like Octavia E. Butler is that she imagines a vampire story in which the main character's melanin makes her something truly unique among vampires, a person who can walk in the sunlight and has something to offer humanity, if they will give something in return. While stories of vampires have existed for as long as humans have been telling stories, these three tales in particular offer a, pun intended, biting commentary on the world as it is, and the fact that oftentimes the worst monsters aren't lurking in the dark. They're humans who benefit from established systems, even when that status quo requires the exploitation of the vulnerable. But even when the cruelties of reality seem inescapable, it's still true that change is the only constant in life and fiction. And as long as you can learn to cope with change, survival is possible. As Octavia E. Butler once wrote in Parable of the Sower, that's all anybody can do right now. Live, hold out, survive. I don't know whether good times are coming back again, but I know that won't matter if we don't survive these times. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back again later this year with another terrifying trio.